We're going to ask everyone to find their seats. Turn off your cell phones, please, and ask if Jonathan, if you're back there, if you can start to shut those doors, that would be great. We'll get started in just a minute. Did that sound bad? It doesn't sound right. I don't know how to fix something. Gary, if you're here, can you come check the sound? Better? Better? Sound check? Okay. All right. He says good. Do you want me to get on the mic? All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I am Beth Getz, Interim Athletic Director here at the University of Minnesota. Thank you. Oh, this crowd's already good for my ego. On behalf of the Tucker Center, it's my pleasure to welcome you to their annual Spring Distinguished Lecture. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. Before I begin my formal introduction, I do have one announcement. The Tucker Center and the U of M Athletics have a long history of partnership, and we frequently collaborate. The Tucker Center has created, in our latest partnership, the third annual Women's Coaches Symposium, which is going to be held this April 22nd at TCF Bank Stadium. This event is a unique professional development and networking opportunity for over 200 women coaches. Its goal is to recruit and retain women in the coaching profession so that we can develop more great coaches like Cheryl Reeve. For more information on the symposium, please visit the Tucker Center website. Since its inception in 1993, established due to a generous endowment from U of M alum and 1945 graduate Dr. Dorothy Tucker, the Tucker Center has fulfilled its threefold mission. First, to conduct research on the impact of sports in the lives of girls and women. To provide first-rate educational opportunities for students, and to engage in community outreach and public service. The Tucker Center's annual lecture series brings all parts of their mission together by creating a public forum that allows the best and the brightest leaders from around the world to share their insights and expertise on important and timely issues related to women's sports. Tonight's great conversation will be no exception. On a personal note, I also have to take this opportunity to say how much Gopher Athletics cherishes the great opportunity we have with Dr. Kane and the Tucker Center. I thank you for helping create a culture that celebrates the opportunities our student athletes have each and every day. To begin tonight's conversation, here are some key characteristics that define great leaders. Dynamic, forceful, grace under pressure. They are also attributes synonymous with great athletes and why we believe that sports builds leaders. Until recently, that has meant male leaders, but in the wake of Title IX, that belief has been challenged. One arena where women's leadership is on display is in the WNBA. Our two speakers tonight are highly accomplished leaders who will share their insights and strategies on what it takes to build leaders and champions both on and off the court. Our first speaker tonight is Lindsay Whalen. She's really comfortable sitting there enjoying the applause. So maybe one more round. A native of Hutchinson, Minnesota, Whalen led the U of M women's basketball program to national prominence during her career. She is the first Golden Gopher to earn All-America honors in 3 different seasons and led the U of M to its first ever Final Four appearance. She's a 2-time Wade Trophy and Naismith Award finalist and a unanimous selection for All Big Ten First Team in 2002 through 2004. A 3-time academic All Big Ten honoree, Whalen's jersey was retired in 2005. She began her pro career in the WNBA as a first-round pick in 2004, and in 2011 returned to Minnesota, where she helped lead the Lynx to 3 WNBA titles. Whalen is only the second player in WNBA history to record 4,000 points, 1,500 assists, and 1,000 rebounds. She won a gold medal at the 2012 Summer Olympics in London and a FIBA World Championship in Turkey in 2014. Please join me in giving Lindsay a warm welcome. Our second guest tonight, Coach Cheryl Reeve. Coach Reeve attended LaSalle University, where she led her basketball team to a national ranking and was selected All-Metro Atlantic Conference and All-Big Five during her senior year. Her coaching resume includes 27 years as an assistant and head coach at the collegiate and WNBA levels, including stints at Indiana State, George Washington, the Charlotte Sting, and Detroit Shock. Since 2010, Reeve has guided the Lynx to 3 WNBA titles and amassed an overall record of 141 and 64. That record is good for the most wins in franchise history and the highest winning percentage in the WNBA. Coach Reeve named the WNBA Coach of the Year in 2011, served as assistant head coach when the U.S. women captured gold at the Summer Olympics in 2012, and has also excelled academically. As an undergraduate at LaSalle, she was a Rhodes Scholar nominee and received an NCAA postgraduate scholarship to pursue her master's degree in Management Information Systems. Please welcome Coach Reeve. Now I invite the third All-Star to the stage, who we all have such great respect and admiration for, our moderator tonight, Professor Mary Jo Kane. Dr. Kane is the director of the Tucker Center, which is housed in the College of Education and Human Development. She is an internationally recognized scholar who has published extensively on issues related to sport and gender, particularly media representations of women's sports. Professor Kane is a recipient of the first endowed chair in the nation related to women's sports, the Dorothy McNeil Tucker Chair for Women in Sport and Exercise Science. She is a She is a past recipient of the Scholar of the Year Award from the Women's Sports Foundation, and in 2014, Professor Kane was named one of the 100 most influential sports educators by the Institute for International Sport. She has appeared on the Today Show and NPR, and her research is frequently cited by the New York Times, USA Today, and the Washington Post.
Well, thank you, Beth, for all those very kind remarks. Before I begin my dialogue with Lindsay and Cheryl, there's some folks I would like to acknowledge publicly, because they've been working behind the scenes over the last few months to make sure that this evening runs very smoothly. Tucker Center volunteers and University of Minnesota students, Marissa Fettig, Katie Tran, and Maddie Ludozzi. In addition, Tucker Center graduate students and invaluable members of the Tucker team, Anna Baith, Marnie Kinnaird, and Jonathan Sweet. And just as an aside, an alum who's in relatively good standing as a former member of the Tucker team, none other than Lindsay Whalen.
That's right.
I also want to acknowledge somebody that a lot of you know and have worked with, Tucker Center co-director Dr. Nicole LeBoy, who is right over there. Dr. LeBoy is on sabbatical this semester, so don't say anything. She's not really here. As many of you know, we cannot succeed in our mission without widespread support. So in addition to our many generous donors, there are individuals within the university who have supported us over the last 23 years. And this, I know, is a slippery slope, because if you mention one, you need to mention many. But there are a couple of people in particular that I want to mention. First is our current dean, who is the Dean of the College of Education and Human Development, Jean Kwam. And a second person I want to publicly acknowledge is our former president, Robert Brunix, who was my college dean when Dr. Tucker stepped forward and came forward with her absolutely extraordinary gift. President Brunix, unlike a lot of administrators, immediately understood how important and unique this opportunity was for us and for the University of Minnesota. And we would not be here without the support of President Brunix. So how about a round of applause? Finally, I would be remiss if I did not recognize the Gopher women's hockey team. Who last Sunday won their, ready, 7th national championship. So congratulations to all of them, and go Gophers. Finally, we are live streaming this event, so to the overflow crowd here and also to the folks at home, so I want to thank all those folks for tuning in. Everyone here tonight is pretty familiar with the records and the accomplishments of Lindsay and Cheryl that Beth mentioned in her introduction. But what I want to do this evening is give you a more intimate, up-close and personal perspective from two all-time greats in women's sports, and especially in the state of Minnesota. Who, how, and what were important in their journeys that brought them to this place where very few people ever arrive. I want to explore their histories, their perspectives, and their insights that will help us all understand not only how to build and nurture leaders and champions in sports, but in life. So let's begin with a little personal history. You ready, gals? Okay.
Yes. Are the mics? Okay, they're on. Okay. That's not for sure.
So Lindsay, you told me once that when you were growing up in Hutchinson, your first love actually wasn't basketball, it was hockey. So can you tell us about what sports you played as a little girl and why you loved sports from an early age?
I think I'm the oldest child, so I think I was encouraged to try everything, and my parents were always wanting me to try different sports, different activities. I was in figure skating first, dance, gymnastics, all those.
How'd that go, Lindsay?
All those lasted, like a year. I stuck it out because if you start it, you have to finish it.
Did you spin around a lot in the figure skating?
Yeah, that one I don't remember. I remember more of the dance and gymnastics. It was tumbling at the time, so. Yeah, if I'm not warmed up right now, so that's, we got a big season coming up, so I gotta be careful. Yeah, so I did all those things, and I think it was one, probably get me out of the house, because, we're taking care of other people. And then two, just, I don't know, I was probably very active and had a lot of energy, so. But then when I was in kindergarten, somewhere around there, that's when I first started playing hockey, and I just was all into that, loved hockey. But then we played everything, in the backyard. We played football, basketball, whatever kind of was in that season. But hockey was definitely my main thing until probably 5th or 6th grade, when there was no girls varsity, hockey, there wasn't a program. So I was playing with the boys that whole time. And then there was probably some in the cities, but I mean, we were out in Hutch, so there was, just wasn't going to happen. So my parents encouraged me to switch to basketball, so I did that. And because there was, you're part of the team, all those type of things. So, I switched just to, that was probably going to be my friend group, which it turned out to be. It still is. So it worked out well. It was a good change, but I definitely was just involved with sports, I guess, pretty much right away, and like to compete and have fun and do all those things.
Now, did you have any role models growing up, Minnesota folks or folks on the national scene?
Let's see. Well, I mean, growing up, Charles Barkley was my favorite player. The round.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
For obvious reasons.
Could you name two obvious reasons?
I'll give you three. The round mound of rebound.
There you go.
So, I don't know. I just really loved Charles Barkley. I loved the Phoenix Suns. I was obsessed with that team. I had their posters all over my walls. In the 90s it was Kevin Johnson. That was my team. I think it was because my relatives all lived in Phoenix. So, you kind of have an association with the team. And then we got the Timberwolves, so then KG. When I was younger, Mike Madonna with hockey. So, those were kind of the people I looked up to. Actually, I liked because we didn't have as many women's athletes probably now as we do. But Jennifer Capriati in tennis, I wanted to be like her. So, I don't know. You kind of have a lot as a kid growing up because it's kind of who's ever popular at the time. And so, that was kind of those were my teams, I guess.
Okay.
So, yep.
And Cheryl, how about you? Same question. You growing up in New Jersey, and how did you get into sports? How did you love sports? What did you play? And also, who were your role models and sports heroes?
I was actually a military brat, so Omaha, Nebraska was my place of birth, and I spent the first 9 years of my life. That's where I got into sports. I don't recall exactly what it was about myself as a young person that my parents thought it was a good idea to get me into sports. I had an older brother who was not the most interested in athletics at the time, a younger brother who ended up being kind of like my best friend through the years, through our sport. Baseball and softball, and actually baseball because softball there wasn't enough girls playing, and so we had to play on the baseball team. I remember being 9 years old playing baseball in Omaha, Nebraska. I was the shortstop on my team. I threw too hard for the boys. So they kept having to change the first baseman, somebody that could catch. And I just remember, I don't know the reason. I don't know if my father really realized how enlightened he was for his time. But he treated me exactly the same as he treated my brothers. The expectations were exactly the same. And I so appreciate him for that. So for me, it was baseball and then turned softball. My dad was the assistant coach on the team. We did the whole traveling softball thing. And so softball was my love. Played in the backyard. And much like Lindsay, whatever season it was, that's what we played. And so I grew up on the Kansas City Royals. And so George Brett was somebody that, I idolized. And then, crazy enough, that later in life this would come back, but Chuck Foreman was my guy in football. Number 44, Chuck Foreman. I just couldn't wait to watch him play. And we played in the backyard with my brothers all the time. My mom used to make me go out back and catch for my brother, who was a pitcher, and I hated doing it because we had what my dad called a rag arm. But I always went out and did that part to help my younger brother in his endeavors in sport. And then when I got to high school, so we moved from Nebraska to Georgia. Northside Junior High School in Georgia was where I first started playing basketball. Wasn't crazy about my coach and the team. I didn't, it was just it wasn't serious enough for me. I really wanted to be pushed, and it's not like it is now with AAUs and traveling teams. We didn't have that per se in basketball at the time. I remember my green Chucks. My feet were really big. The tube socks with the green and yellow stripes, right? So I started to really become interested in basketball. So I was a 3-sport athlete, and then in high school, the coach of the basketball team I didn't think about this at the time, but she encouraged me to be a one-sport athlete. Now, I played 3 sports through high school. I was field hockey, which I hated field hockey. I just hated it. I thought the sticks were too short, the ball too small. I just could never strike it. I needed a longer stick all the time. So that didn't last very long. And then I went and played tennis, like Lindsay. My senior year was first singles on the tennis team. Never had a lesson, just kind of went out there and just knocked the ball around. My racket was bent. Apparently started at a young age. I didn't like how things went. I just kind of. So I had to learn the sweet spot on my racket when it had a curve. So, but yeah. So my high school coach told me, you know what, Cheryl, you're better at softball than you are at basketball. But I really think basketball is something that you should pursue because that's going to be where the opportunity is from a scholarship standpoint. There's more money in basketball. And so I heeded her advice and then kind of stuck with that and went on to play at LaSalle University in Philadelphia. And then, kind of the story is written from there. Did I answer all of that?
Absolutely.
Good. Great.
Good job.
Thanks.
Lindsay, you're from a small town in Minnesota, and you didn't play for a powerhouse program like Tennessee or Connecticut. Not that we're unhappy about that. But you came to the University of Minnesota, and you helped build a winning program that put us on the map. And as we all know, even taking the Gophers to the Final Four in 2004. Take us through what it was like for you being a player on that historic drive for the Gophers going to the Final Four.
That year, the whole time.
Just the whole year.
That year was that was a crazy year. That was the year I broke my hand. So yeah, that year we started out great. I mean, this was it was Pam's second year. So the first year was transition because the year before that Brenda left. So it was Pam's first year. So this is our second year. So that team, you guys remember, it was like Schoenrock, Bolden, Carlson, those guys. They were sophomores. So it was like everybody kind of took a step together. It was mine, Khadijah's. It was our senior year, Leslie's senior year too, but she got hurt earlier. So yeah, it was an interesting year. We started out great. I think we were like 15-0 or something like that. Things were going really well. Big Ten hit. We were still playing well, but we would lose to Penn State, Michigan State, teams like that, and then I broke my hand. So then we go to Ohio State. I remember, Joel, you were there. You were in the back.
Joel McCurry, ladies and gentlemen, is right here in the audience. Yeah, Joel.
That's definitely a moment I remember for sure because he was in the back in the training room with me, with my parents, and I think my youngest brother was there. Everybody was crying. My hand was up. You could just tell. We didn't have X-rays, but you could just tell something wasn't right. So I got undercut by this freshman, from Ohio State. We're in Ohio State. We go up to shoot the ball, gets blocked, so I have to go try to rebound, round, mound, rebound. And so I'm going for the ball. I get tumbled over, land on my hand, break my hand, this and that. Then Joel was there, so he was comforting and found out it was broken, so I was out 5 to 6 weeks. So the tournament, it kind of worked out well because the tournament was around like 4 or 5 weeks from that point. Mm-hmm. So we held it down. Roisland was a freshman, came in and held down the fort. Yeah, Kelly Roisland held down the fort. She held down the fort. So we were roommates that year too on the road. So we have a tight bond. So she came in and held it down. We end up getting the 7th seed. We play UCLA first round. We beat them. Yeah. Play Kansas State. I'm telling you, stories that everybody knows.
It's fabulous.
Maybe knows. So I remember I practiced, I think, once before the tournament after like 4 weeks, and I was breathing heavy for sure, trying to get down the court. So we play them. We win those 2 games. We end up going out to Virginia. I'm winning those games out there, and it was just I don't know. It was just like this. I don't know, just kind of this ride we were on where I don't know. We knew we were going to win. We just knew like every round until Connecticut, and even then, like we knew, like we had a good feeling. And if Ann Struthers doesn't hit a 3 in the corner, like I still think, And if we would have beat them, we'd have definitely beat Tennessee that year. But, you know, they were a better team, so you got to give it to them. But leading up to that, I don't know, our team just had this synergy. You know, J-Mac was playing unbelievable. She was getting like 25 and 15 every night that whole tournament, and I don't know, it was just it was one of those things. I came back at the right time that kind of gave us a boost, and we were at home those first 2 games. So watching that this weekend kind of reminded me of those games when we played UCLA and Kansas State here, and what an advantage that is when you get to play at home. So it was cool. So I didn't play on senior night because my hand was broken, and it was cool that I was able to come back and play a couple more games at home. And then, yeah, we went to the Final Four, and it was just, you look back on it now, and it was just like this kind of crazy time. Within like 2 weeks, then I was drafted to Connecticut, so it was a pretty, you know, up and down time with just having to get home from that and then immediately go to Connecticut. So, but it was a fun year, in summary.
Well, after that, this leads me into the next question, which is you were a first-round draft choice, and you were playing at that time with and against superstars like Diana Taurasi and Candace Parker, and then these days with Brittany Griner, Tamika Catchings, and your teammates Maya Moore and Simone Augustus. You know, I can go on and on. Was there a moment for you, or was it more of an evolution, when you knew that you not only belonged on a big stage with those amazing female athletes, but you were also very much their equal? I mean, how did that feel for you to go from Hutchinson to the U to being on that kind of a stage?
Yeah, I mean, well, my rookie year in Connecticut was kind of eye-opening because I was playing with Taj. I was playing with all vets that year, so I was pretty intimidated right away. Nikisha Sales, Katie Douglas, all these people that are older than me, and here I am just, you know, starting. And I think there was a game against Detroit. Maybe you were there.
I was there.
Yeah. Well, it was 04. It was 04.
I wasn't
05.
There.
You weren't there yet.
I wasn't there.
I was gonna say we won.
Yeah.
So
That's how you know I wasn't there yet.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But I had
You guys know that we're videotaping.
Oh, we
this,
are.
right? Okay.
So it was probably halfway through that year. So we're in Detroit. We're playing at the Palace of Auburn Hills, and I think that night I had like, I don't know, 8 to 10 points or something, but I had 13 assists. And so I think that was the night. I mean, you know, you're playing with a lot of vets, so if you have 13 assists, that's good because they're happy. So that was the night that Coach Tebow was. I think he came up to me and just said, you know, I think, you know, just whatever. Like there, you know, I think you kind of showed tonight maybe why we took you. Something really encouraging. So so from that point on, I felt like I kind of. I mean, I wasn't like a leader on the team, but I'm also the point guard. So there's just that general leadership role. So I think at that point, I felt like I had a pretty good control and like pulse of the team from that point on. We had our ups and downs, but we ended up making it to the finals and unfortunately losing to Seattle. But probably halfway through that year, then that was of course like the summer after the Final Four. So playing on like that stage, the Final Four, to then the WNBA finals, you kind of feel like that you're getting the point, or you're just continuing to get better, and you feel like you can play in the league. I didn't know how long or how, you know, what I could do, but you kind of felt like that you could play and be productive and just go out and do your thing.
And Cheryl, the same question for you. You played basketball and started at LaSalle University, and then you coached for many years at the college level and then as an assistant coach in the WNBA. The Lynx is your first professional head coaching job, and so like I asked Lindsay, was there a moment for you where you knew that you belonged in the big time on the big stage and that you could be as good as any of your peers?
I don't know that when you're going through the process, you think about that. Much like I think with players, you're just constantly in the day-to-day of how do you get better. And you know, I think people like Lindsay that are great players, it starts with preparation. And I think I'm somebody that has always believed in preparation. I put a lot of pressure on myself in that way. I give credit to my parents. I give credit to the background, the military background. You know, we were very regimented, and to have high expectations of yourself. And I have this feeling all the time that I want to make sure that I'm always putting players like Lindsay in the best position possible, and never want to feel like I didn't do something to prepare them for a moment in a game. And so that feeling that you have every day kind of keeps you with this thirst to want to be better, especially if you look at our team right now. Each year that we've done this, it gets harder and harder. The teams close the gap in terms of talent, but they spend a lot of time preparing for you. And so it gets harder and harder to try to stay ahead. I think for me, in college it's a little bit different because of my age. From 22 to 27, being an assistant at George Washington University, we built that program from not being very successful to being in the Sweet 16. When you're 27 and 28 and you're really feeling yourself and you think you're like really, really good. Well, I was that way. I was ready to be a head coach. I knew more than all the other coaches, but I had a guy that I worked for that really cautioned me to make sure that you take a good job, and just understand that that life out of here isn't the same as it is here. What we have going on at GW. And I didn't listen to him. I took a bad job. I went to be a head coach at Indiana State University. I think the thinking was okay. I think, but when I look back on it in terms of my personalities, being an Easterner, I was labeled an Easterner, and they weren't necessarily keen on Easterners in Indiana. I was a driver. And so banged my head against the wall trying to build a mid-major. We did okay. We brought a team to the NIT. But then, there was this WNBA that came into existence, and I became a big fan right away. I was a season ticket holder for the Indiana Fever to start kind of my interest. And they were having a pre-draft camp in Chicago, which was not far from Terre Haute, a couple hours away. And I thought, let me drive up there and met with Ann Donovan, who had a position open for the Charlotte Sting. It was just a seasonal position, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll do seasonal. And by the way, it's going to pay $5,000. I said, absolutely. That would be amazing to earn $5,000 to have the opportunity to be in the W. I probably would have done it for free when I look back on it. That was during the day and age. There's some younger people here, students here. That was in the day and the age where you paid your dues, that you went and you did whatever for hours and didn't get compensated for it. Right? We don't see that anymore. Now we have employment law and things like that have kind of taken over. But I think. When I look back on that, that was definitely, for me, a career-changing move, doing that. I spent time being an assistant for 10 years, mostly learned what I would do. Some of the most valuable lessons you learn in life is what you would not do. Many of you probably have experienced that when you worked for somebody. Those are incredibly valuable experiences. Not as much fun, but definitely very, very valuable. And for me, when I got to Detroit in 2006, something I never thought I would do would be standing alongside of Bill Laimbeer, coaching with him. I couldn't stand the guy. Just couldn't stand the guy. And Lindsay could tell you, I mean, he was just one of those, he still is, he's just one of those guys that he enjoys not being likable. But, as it turns out, it was a really, really positive move for me, because what Bill did for me was he allowed me to be myself. And I, to this day, hold that as one of the most important things that I can do for our players and that our players can do for me, is to let me be myself and let players be themselves. That's so important. And Bill was very, very comfortable. Now, myself is not necessarily easy for everybody. And so that's what was great about Bill. Bill allowed me to say and do, and if he thought that I was wrong, he would tell me so, and it was great. We'd have that kind of banter. I would sit with Bill in the office and at season's end, and I was kind of the preparer. That's why he brought me there. He said, I heard you kind of do this scouting thing. Guys are just like, let's just go hoop, let's just go play. And then the team, the players on the team, and this was probably Connecticut beating Detroit, because I don't remember before I got there, at 04 and 05. Did you guys beat? So Detroit had won the championship in 2003. It was Bill's first full season. And then 04 and 05 got back to the playoffs, but they weren't getting over the hump. And so in 2006, Bill said, I need someone, that the team wants someone to prepare them, wants somebody that can get into the video and do the scouting, which was right in my wheelhouse. And so I went there and had a chance to do that, and found myself kind of being the one that, in scout preparations, practice preparations, being the detail-oriented person. And then I kind of just decided in 2009, the Detroit Shock were relocating to Tulsa. And at that time, I said, you know what, I have 10 years in. I remember sitting in the office with Bill for a couple seasons after the season's end, and we would talk about jobs that would be open. He knew I wanted to be a head coach. I was getting to that point, kind of getting to be a little bit of a pain, for him. I really wanted to go do this. And he's like, well, you want to be a head coach? Absolutely, I want to be a head coach. And we would look at the board and say, okay, well, we think there might be a change here or a change there. And then he would say to me, why do you think that they would hire you? What is the appeal about you? And I don't know that I had an answer. I just said, I think I have an idea of what it takes to be successful. And he told me that he didn't think that I was an attractive candidate for these franchises because I didn't have a presence. And so I didn't let it hurt my feelings. It kind of riled me up. And it really, I could not wait for the day to show him
Good for you.
the presence that I might have. And so I was very fortunate, because things happen for a reason. It was gut-wrenching when we lost our team in Detroit. It was a championship team. It was an unbelievable team. And they relocated. The owner of the Pistons passed away. They whatever, fast forward. And then I remember thinking, I'm done propping up men. I'm done doing this. I want my own gig. And fortunately for me, there was an opportunity here in Minnesota, and I was really confident. I didn't know how it would turn out to this point, but I was really confident that I knew the little things that it was going to take to be successful. One thing I was sure was we needed to get the right people here. I had heard a lot about the Minnesota Lynx. There was some talent here for sure, but there was something just a little off, that needed to be changed. And I'm really, really fortunate that I want to say it was my first month on the job. Roger called me and said Connecticut had an offer for us. And at the time, we had the #1 pick. Tina Charles was coming out. And, Lindsay was available to us. And it took probably a 5-minute conversation where we said, absolutely. And this was not about, for me, I have to tell you this, none of our decisions are about bringing home Gophers because they're Gophers. That makes you all happy. What makes me happy as a coach is to have someone like Lindsay who has the mentality of a winner that will prepare. It will be somebody that you have as one of your best players on your team, that her behavior is contagious in a way that you want it to be contagious, because behavior in the other direction is contagious as well. And that was a little bit of what we found out in 2010 when we got in the trenches together, that we needed to change. And so being able to trade for Lindsay, there is no question. Timing is everything. I am so grateful for the timing to have Lindsay back here and to be the leader of our team that has kind of rode us through this great journey with Lindsay at the forefront. And I don't know if I've answered the question. I probably have gone here.
You have.
But here I am.
Yes, and we're glad you're here. Let me shift and talk a little bit about the theme of our great conversation tonight, which is qualities and characteristics of great leaders. Those of us who have followed Lindsay since her days at the University of Minnesota obviously know what a great leader she is. But you may not know that many other people around the country have noticed this as well. I want to share a newspaper article about this very topic from sports writer Michelle Vopel in 2015. She wrote an article entitled, Whalen Embraces Lynx's Leadership Role. And Volpel had this to say about Lindsay. She's always had that unflappable presence no matter what's happening around her. But especially with the Lynx, Whalen's on-court persona has become even more of a leader who makes everyone else feel reassured. Put it this way, Volpel continues, if Whalen were in the Poseidon adventure, she'd be the character calmly saying, it's okay. All we have to do is climb and swim our way through this capsized ocean liner. And then escape through the bottom of the ship, which is now actually above us. But don't worry, just follow me. In that same article, you are quoted, Cheryl, as saying this about Lindsay and her leadership qualities. Any coach will tell you how important a player like Lindsay is. The reason we have such great team chemistry is because of her. She embraces being the ultimate extension of the coaching staff. She understands valuing possessions, what's needed in the key moments. She just knows when to do the right thing. So, Cheryl, tell us more about Lindsay and what makes her such a great leader. And did you know this even before you came to the Lynx?
Well, I prepared for Lindsay when I was in Detroit from 06 to 09. We'll leave out the results of the games. But I prepared for Lindsay. And so I had an idea. You know, Lindsay was, you know, I mean, Lindsay just exudes toughness, right? I mean, when you're there, you just see it. You know, the physical toughness and the mental toughness. And so, again, looking at the Minnesota Lynx team at that time, it was something that we really could use. And so that was easy. So in my preparation for Lindsay, I remember kind of always having to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, because you can go into the game with plan A, but as soon as Lindsay sees what you're doing, she's gonna adjust, and then you got to go to plan B, because once she solves that, then you have to kind of move with Lindsay, and so then you go to plan B, and then you go to, and you just hope that at some point that you can just try to stay ahead of Lindsay, which is really hard to do. And you know, I think what makes Lindsay so special is. And the story that I'll tell is being at USA Basketball. I hope this is okay, Lindsay. Being at USA Basketball, it was my first time. We were getting ready to go to Europe to go to the World Championships. Lindsay's been a part of USAB. She was an Olympian before I got involved as a coach, and we're in Annapolis. It was I think it was our first practice. Was it our first practice? And we're in Annapolis, and you know, I'm kind of the rookie coach. I'm into the drills. I'm all excited, and you know, I'm proud of my players that are there, and you know, of course, I'm a big fan of Lindsay, and I think everything she does is great. And Lindsay comes over at I want to say it was the first break. We had gone up and down, we'd done some drills and stuff, and Lindsay comes over and she's like, Coach, I'm going to get cut the first day. I'm going to get cut the first day. She felt that bad about what she was doing. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I wanted to laugh. But I thought, no, she's very serious, you know, and I thought it was a joke because, you know, Lindsay's sense of humor is, you guys know, it can, you know, you have to stick with her sometimes, like, you know. And so I didn't know if it was one of those moments, but I looked in her eyes and I was like, well, she's serious, and I said, Lindsay, I think you're okay. You know, I said, I think you'll get through today. You know, we'll talk about it after practice. We can see how you can get better in day 2. But that's what makes Lindsay so good, is she never thinks that she's arrived. She never thinks that she's, you know, I mean, yes, she knows she's good, but she always thinks that there's something more she could and should be doing. And that's a thing of beauty for me. Whenever we've hit tough stretches, I always say, you know, when you're going through it, it's not easy as you try to process what's kind of happening. And every time I lay my head on my pillow at night, I go, but I have Lindsay Whalen, and I know all is going to be right tomorrow. So,
how's that feel?
That was a rough practice in Annapolis. It was tough. I thought I was going to have to get carried out by the stretcher. It was just, I was just out of shape, I guess. I don't know. It was like we lost to Phoenix 6 days before that. So it was in 2014. So, you know, I didn't do anything basketball-wise for like 6 days. So you have the emotional of losing to Phoenix. It was a 3-game series. Yeah. We were right with them the whole time. And then the fourth quarter, they kind of took over. We ended up getting, you know, they ended up winning by, maybe it was like 20 or something like that. So then you're kind of on the down slope of the season, and then you have USA basketball, and you have to like get ready for that. And everybody else who missed the playoffs, so they were done, they've been training for like 3 weeks and getting ready. And I remember me and Simone were like, I don't know, that's what I kept saying, is that I thought I really did. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it physically or on the team. I thought I was going to pass out. So I came back the next day, and I think Coach Ariema, we did a lot of 5-on-0 that day. And so I was like, all right, I got my wheels rolling, a little confidence. And then at that point, it was good after that. So first day was tough, though. That was rough. And that was your first practice, so. Yeah, anyways, next. How was that?
Well, now in this same vein, not necessarily about being carried out on stretchers, but you've been coached by some of the best, Lindsay, including Gino Ariema when you won the Olympic gold medal. So in terms of leadership qualities and characteristics, what makes Cheryl Reeve such a great leader, somebody who has guided you and the rest of the team to 3 WNBA titles? What is it about Cheryl that's so great?
I think that, like she said, when we all came here that first year to the Lynx, so it was me, Coach Brunson, that was her first year, Monty's first year, Maya wasn't here yet, and I mean, we really tried really hard that whole year. We gave everything we had. I think that a big thing was changing the mentality and culture on the team, and we've all said it, like all of us captains from day one, like we take our lead from Coach, and you know, we look to her a lot, and then we kind of lead the rest of the players on the team. But I think just having that, I guess, like, you know, Coach is huge on preparation and just like organization. So like in practice, just starting out, like we've changed it up a little because now we're, you know, we've been going through it for a bunch of years, but like we'll do the same few drills every day in practice. And like for me, that was so refreshing because then I kind of knew what I was prepared for. I knew what parts of practice this was needed, that was needed. So I think just having like a game plan for every practice, not to mention every game, but just practice. Like I think that's one of the biggest things that I can say about Coach is that, I mean, how we play, like what you guys see in the game, that's really like how we practice, and that's like not a joke. That's really how hard we go every day, and that's really what we try to get out of every day, and that's all from her. So, you know, coming from Connecticut, one of the that was a big turning point in my career was in 2010, the year before we got Maya. So we missed the playoffs, but I remember having a meeting with Coach and with Shelly Patterson probably like halfway through the year. We were really struggling. I was struggling. Like we were just trying to kind of figure our way. And she just kind of broke it down to me like, I want you to average, you know, like 20 points in practice. So like think of all the times in practice, like when to be aggressive, when to take it, when to take a three, when to do those things. And kind of break it down, not to just think, like I never thought of that before, like to break for myself, like to challenge myself every day in practice to, you know, average, or maybe it was like average 14 and 8 every practice and only have like 2 turnovers. So I kind of just took that mentality and it just carried over. It just started carrying over. Mm-hmm. And so in the games, there was a great stretch. That was the year before I ended up making the 2010 World Championships team. So that kind of springboarded me into like our team a really successful part of, you know, my career and us as a team. So then we got Maya after that year. So then that's kind of, you know, everything's kind of gone from there. But I guess just, yeah, the preparation and just how much she wants us to be successful and to do well. You know, she'll say this all the time that, you know, after games she'll feel bad, like she can see how much we put into it. That she, you know, she'll feel bad for us if we're having a night when we just can't shoot it, you know, we can't put it, you know, in the basket, and she truly feels bad for us on those nights because she wants us to be that successful and wants us to be that great. So I think all those things just, you know, really has elevated us all as players to another level. And then I would probably say one moment was really awesome this year. It was before Game 5 of the finals. Home game, I mean, it's like do or die. You haven't had something like that since really college, really. I mean, because the other finals, we just swept everybody. So, I was like, you know, nothing against Atlanta, but you know, it was 3 games and we were home. So, anyways, this is game 5. Like, I was like, I like couldn't sleep. I was like really like we beat Indiana game 3. We play a tough game out there game 4, but lose. We're like, all right, we're coming home. We're coming home. We're like, all right, we have home court. This is why we worked so hard all year. That's what we try to win all our home games so we can have home court so that game 5 is at our place. So we know there's going to be 18,000, 19,000 people there. We know it's going to be nuts. You're going against Tamika Catchings. Brianne January is having an unbelievable series. Shanice Johnson, like they were rolling, you know. But so were we. So I think it was just shoot around that morning. I don't exactly remember exactly what you said, but she came in and it was just like this calming, like, you know, this is what we're going to do. Like we had a concrete plan from like shoot around that morning through whatever was going to happen in the game. And from that point on, like I had a great nap before the game because I was able to just sleep. And I was like, after her speech that morning, like there's no doubt we were winning. And that's how we went and played that night. So, you know, there's several moments and several stories throughout the years, but, you know, when it came time for winning time in game 5, you know, as our leader, she definitely stepped up and was able to let us just go out there and play. So that was pretty cool.
To be yourself.
Yep.
Well, speaking of rising to that championship moment, those of us who follow sports are obviously familiar with the saying that sport not only builds character, but it actually reveals character. And this is often apparent, and we've heard this before and seen it, when great players make great plays at critical moments on the biggest stage. So speaking of last year's championship series against Indiana, where it's, for those of you who don't know, it's 3 out of 5, and it did go to game 5, which the Lynx won. But I want to take you back to game 3. The series is tied 1-1, and we're on our home court, and we cannot afford to lose this game. There's not much time left. The game is tied at 77 with 1.7 seconds left. Coach calls a timeout, but rather than have me take you through what happens next, why don't we relive that iconic moment on the big screen?
Oh.
Shh.
Notice still with 1 timeout remaining. Tie game, 1.7 to go in the 4th. Whalen to trigger in. Gets it to Moore. Moore will get it off. The shot is
Yay!
3 belongs to Moore and Minnesota.
Brilliant.
How about that, eh, folks? Okay, so here's the question, Coach Reeve. Did you know immediately when you called the timeout what play you wanted to run, or was it just gut instinct? Or, as you've already mentioned, and Lindsay certainly has reinforced, hours of practice and watching film where preparation meets opportunity. Take us through what you were thinking about what play to call when you called that timeout.
You know, that's a hard one because, you know, when you talk to people afterwards and they talk about the stress of the moment, you know, and I think Lindsay would tell you this too, you don't necessarily feel that time. You know, you don't feel, I think it was probably only a 20-second timeout, right? It wasn't a full timeout.
Yeah.
You can't get caught up in the time of it. And so for whatever reason, we have that ability. Maybe it's experience. You just kind of have done it. That particular play is a play that when I first got into the league, Richie Adebato would run. Sacramento ran it, you know. And so kind of odd how, and we didn't necessarily, it's always, for me, there's always things that my mind kind of spits out at rare times. It could be 3 in the morning, and I'll wake up and I'll see a play and go, God, why don't I run that? That worked really well for the Miami Soul, or that worked. And then you go and you just kind of, you jot it down. We may or may not do it in our practice. And that particular play, because there wasn't much time, you didn't really have a whole lot of opportunities for too much else, I didn't think. You know, keeping it simple was important against Indiana. And having more than one option was important. And I just remember kind of, when they were coming over, that was the play that we needed to run. It wasn't dynamic. It wasn't original. I think I'm really, really good at copying. When I see a good idea, I'm all over it. I'm not terribly creative. And so, so in that moment, having someone like Sil as an option, Maya as an option, having someone like Lindsay, just decision maker that she is. We put ourselves through situations in practice. And I have to tell you, I don't know why, but that moment between Lindsay and Maya is something that I see a number of times in practice. A number of times. And I think in that moment, Lindsay just knew what Maya was doing. Of course, Lindsay's a pleaser, too. That's the other thing. Lindsay's always going to do, I can always count on Lindsay to do what's asked of her. But she also has tremendous instinct for the game. And so those two things combined creates a ton of trust. And, the read that Lindsay made on that play, by the way, come off the bench, had not been in the game. Had not been in the game. And so for her to have the presence of mind to go, I don't know, hopefully we'll hear from Lindsay what was going through her mind in that moment.
That's my next question.
Yeah, I figured that would be. Because you're good at what you do.
Thank you.
But I just, when I went, when you see it live, I have to tell you, you miss so much live. Because I know I was looking for, particularly at Sil, because I was hopeful. At the time, it was probably, I have to tell you, it wasn't that I thought Maya was going to get the last shot. I thought Maya was going to draw a lot of attention and even a switch off of Sil. So we thought in the moment of a switch that Sil would jet to the basket, Lindsay would throw it up, and I could see Sil catching it and laying it in. So we were looking for a little higher percentage shot than the one that Maya created. But that's Maya. That's right. That's Maya. And so Lindsay's read, if you can't, I don't know how many seconds did it take? About three, maybe 4 when Lindsay had the ball. So when Lindsay had it, like a quarterback, making her checks. Here comes Maya off the double screen, and she saw Sil go, and you see Lindsay look at the basket, right, at Sil, making her reads. And then she turned to see Maya and saw that Marissa Coleman had jumped the passing lane. And Maya made her read and just faded away, and Lindsay didn't panic and just throw it because that's what Coach said to do. But she saw that, and she saw Maya fade, and she just gave her just a beautiful pass. And obviously Maya made the shot. So let's hear from Lindsay on that.
Okay, so you're in the huddle, and Cheryl wants you to be the one to take the ball in bounds. What did you think when she called your number in the huddle? I mean, what was going through your head?
Yeah, I mean, well, like Coach said, like we do those plays all the time at the end of practice, end of game situation. We do a ton. I mean, we have like, I don't know, probably 10 to 15 throughout the year we use. I don't remember if we ever had done that one. Yeah, so I remember thinking, all right, let me, kind of like get my feet going, like get warm here, because I was out. I mean, Cruz and Renee were unbelievable. So, it was just, but then it was like, all right, time to go. It's like, you kind of watching the game go back and forth, and we were hitting unbelievable shots. I mean, just as big as that shot that Maya hit, Renee hit a 3 about like 3 minutes before that was just as big. So like there was so many moments from that game. Anyway, so when she said I was taking it out, end of game, like that's a lot of times, there's a couple other plays where I take it out too, and it's a lot of times it's like end of clock. So I just knew it was all right. See what Coach wants. See what the reads are. The initial read was for Sil to dive to the basket, and they covered that pretty well. I think they had, I'm guessing Larkins. I don't think Kaiser, just because I was thinking Kaiser maybe because she was big, but it was Larkins, and they did a great job on her. So then, then I was basically just waiting for Marissa Coleman to make a mistake. I mean, nothing is. She's a good, I was like, you got Maya, and I was just kind of waiting for a step or something here or there. I didn't know. I thought maybe at first, like, I was going to throw it, like, way over, and Maya could go, catch it on, like, the other, like the other almost elbow, but, deeper. And I don't know, when I saw her kind of, come back, I just tried to throw it into, like, as good as possible spot for her to make a play. And, she had a really great presence of mind, too, to know. I mean, enough time for a pump fake, one dribble right and up. I mean, all that in like 1.2 or whatever it was.
1.7, yeah.
It's pretty unbelievable. So, yeah, it was just, yeah. But we work on that stuff. We work on it, and that's what, you know, you see it in the game, but that was after probably 5.5 months of like almost every day in practice working on some kind of situation like that, whether it's that play or whether it's, okay, down 3, 30 seconds to go, here's what we do. You know, up 2, you know, having to like get a stop, all those types of things, and it's amazing when it actually comes into play, and it happens, and it does. So we really, yeah, we pride ourselves definitely on like not turning it over in that situation, getting a quality shot. If it's us on defense, getting a stop, making sure everybody knows the pick and roll coverages or what we're going to do on flares, this type of things, and that's all kind of happening as we're doing it, and that's just from like months of preparation, and we'll start that next month on April 24th. It'll be like, that'll be this journey, you know, and you never know, like you never know what play, what situation like that. It happened to be, you know, my inbounds pass to Maya that made it, but there's just so many things throughout a season. But that's the fun part. That's what makes it so great, is that you can see all that preparation and all that hard work, and us, you know, taking it serious in practice. Like when Maya hits a shot like that in practice, like we really run over and we kind of like huddle, and it's not probably that great, but like we celebrate, like we start running around the gym, and if it's like your shot to make too, like you want to make it, so then everyone comes celebrate with you in practice, and so, you know, for Maya to get to hit a shot like that in a game is pretty special, and for us to have put it all together was really cool. So ended up being, got us home for that, you know, game 5, ended up being, you know, one of the difference makers in the series.
Totally.
Yep.
So self-confidence and trust, you guys have not actually used those words, but you've sort of implied that. Was that something, and I'll start with you, Cheryl, did you always have self-confidence in yourself? And where did that come from? Was it just innate, or you developed it along the way? What made you say, for example, I'm going to show them? When Bill Lambier said you don't have a presence, and your reaction was, oh yes I do, and I can't wait to show you. Where did that come from?
I'm not sure. You know, these are times when I wish I had, you know, the coaches that coached me, and even my parents here, to kind of know what I was like as a young person. So I'm not sure if that was developed. I just remember always believing that I could, and maybe it was my parents telling me that I could. I gained confidence from preparation. So whether I studied for an exam or you know, practiced, you know, whatever sport it was, it's just something I always believed. Nobody had to tell me that part, and it just has served me well through my career. You know, I was that person that, you know, I'm particularly, as hard as I am on our players, I'm harder on myself, and I think that has been something that has been the case since I was a young person. I remember, you know, just never feeling like I always felt like I could do better and I should have done better, and I handle it better now than what I used to do as a young person. You know, a little bit better, not a lot better, not a lot better. I still have time. I'm about to hit my 50s here, so I'm hoping soon. But I don't know. I think people believing in me, there's no question that has to be outside of the Bill Lambier scenario that created, you know, some fuel to the fire. But I remember as a young person, people that, you know, you got that feeling, whether it was your teachers. I had an algebra teacher who was especially, you know, I think, you know, I liked math. We had that connection, you know, and you know when you just feel like somebody is there for you and really is pulling for you. You know, I think that's a factor. You know, your parents' support, your teachers, your coaches, people that you're surrounded with. I was never really a person that was that into my teammates. I have to tell you, I don't know that I was ever older. When I got older, I was better about that. But I don't know. For me, it was about the game. It was always about the game. I wasn't necessarily into the relationships with my teammates. When I got to college, it got a little bit better. I was a point guard who was very demanding, and I would say I didn't care if we were playing pickup in the fall. And this was always a story that was told. We'd have people that would come in, these freshmen that would come in, and they thought pickup was just kind of like a lollygag thing that you did. And I was always like, no, this is preparation for the season. And so I always kind of had that. I was a little bit of a pain in the neck, and I was a person that you come to watch that you go, I don't think she's enjoying herself. Like a little bit like now when I'm coaching on the side. People, why don't you smile more? I was like, I'm actually having fun. Like this is just me. This is the way that it is. And passion. I think passion is probably my favorite thing. In a player. The story that Lindsay just told about being at practice and celebrating. I remember this like it was yesterday with Maya's arrival, right, in 2011. The training camp we had in 2011 was unbelievable. It remains to this day my favorite training camp. How these guys, when they were together, how much they enjoyed being together in practice. That's not something that's very common. Usually practice is kind of looked at as like a necessary evil. These guys just really, really enjoyed every little drill that we did, they celebrated. And that's what we talk about now. We've tried to bottle that. That doesn't matter what we're doing, no matter how big the success, like that shot, or how small, getting a deflection in a drill in practice. These guys know to celebrate those things. And those are the things that matter, because when you get in the game. And the other thing is, too, when you've done this for so long, as we have, this is now going to be our 7th year together, the success that we've had, sometimes it'd be really easy to kind of move away from all those principles that made us really good. And that's hard. That's human nature. The expectations have changed, right? Well, they haven't changed. You expect us to win the championship every year, right? And you guys are proud of that. You're like, yeah, we did. That's not easy. And meeting, we want to. You don't want it more than what we want it, right, Lindsay? That's kind of what drives players. And I think that what I'm so grateful for is to have people like Lindsay that recognize the value of those moments. My favorite thing that Lindsay does as a leader, when times are tough, that's when you really learn. That's what really reveals a person. Mm-hmm. My favorite thing that Lindsay does as a leader is to remind me as well that in the process, it's not always going to go perfectly, right? We're going to have our challenges. Treat each other well. Let's be good to each other no matter what, right? And that's incredibly valuable to me as the coach. And she's taught me that many times along the way. So I can't say enough about, Lindsay. As you guys know, you should be so proud of not only who she is as a player, but just a tremendous person, role model for the state of Minnesota. Many people started watching women's basketball because of Lindsay Whalen. Mm-hmm. Many girls now, instead of going into the backyard and being the players that we emulated because we didn't have a league, now they're in the backyard saying, Lindsay Whalen. I'm practicing to be Lindsay Whalen. So can't say enough about what she's done for women's basketball.
Yeah. So given what Cheryl has just said, how does it feel for you, Lindsay, to be such a public figure in the state of Minnesota and at the University of Minnesota? How do you handle that? I've been with you in situations where it's frankly a little difficult because we walk in and people know you and it totally changes the dynamic. How do you handle that? How does it feel for you?
I mean, I don't really know. It's, I don't really, I guess, I don't know, try not to, think of it too much. And for the most part, I just, go about my day and try to just continue to get better and to be, like you said, or like Coach said, a good role model. And I think I just have always had a lot of pride in being from Minnesota, being a Minnesotan, and it's something that I feel like I've just tried to represent in the way I've played and try to be as a person. Just being from small town, and that's where you kind of learn your values from my parents, and I just I guess I don't know, just try to work hard. Play as well as I can. It's fun to play sports, fun to play basketball, but at the end, it is a sport, and it's supposed to be fun. So it's supposed to be, something that I've gotten to do for a living, which is really cool. But I think more or less just like Coach said, continue to have now we have like Maya Moore, Simone, someone who young girls and boys can look up to be like, and to just continue to grow the game and really have something to be a part of, and have something that's really positive to be a part of is really cool. And to be a part of a team or an organization, or if it's sports or whatever it is, I think just having our team out there as people who have who are enjoying what they're doing and have been relatively successful is something cool, because girls can kind of see that, oh, if I keep working at this, I can do that, or maybe it's something else. So I think just having that and being a part of that has been pretty cool for us. And I don't know, just try to continue to have fun doing what I'm doing.
Cool. I want to ask a couple more questions, and one, Cheryl, is what you talked about in terms of saying that when you learn a lot when things aren't going well. Some of you know I teach 2 classes at the University of Minnesota, both a graduate and an undergraduate class on sport and society, and in fact, many of the students are here tonight, and we talk a lot about, although it may seem counterintuitive, one of the great things that you learn in sports, one of the great benefits from sports is learning how to lose and what that reveals about you, and more importantly, how you're going to bounce back from that. So if you could talk to the students here, what can you tell them about lessons you've learned when you have lost? And what has that felt like? You want to go first, Lindsay, and then Cheryl?
Sure. Let's see. I guess I'll start with 2010, because we lost a lot that year.
So you learned a lot.
We learned a lot. We learned how to win 3 championships. So all in that year. We really did, because we tried hard. We tried to win every game, and it just worked out that we got Maya. So I mean,
funny
karma.
How that works,
Karma. We tried to win every game. We were losing buzzer beaters. I mean, Tina Thompson from the corner, just making threes. That year, I think we learned a lot, and I think we learned to not really take anything for granted. I think it was Jim P. He said something pretty cool after that. We had a postseason kind of meeting, and he said, don't wish any time away. Don't ever wish like your playing days away. It was just really something that has always stuck with me. Obviously, as I'm trying to remember what he said, you get the gist though. Don't ever wish like your playing days away, or don't wish your career away. Bless you. It was because it was kind of a point that year when things were tough. Things were really tough, and it was like, I think we made it through to the last game when we knew that last game we knew we were eliminated, but it was like the whole way through we could still make it. And not that anyone was like, counting down the days to the end of the season or anything like that, but it was just kind of, it was a tough year. It was kind of a just we weren't successful. So I think I remember that though. I remember him saying that, as a he's a former NBA player, and just former players to not ever take not take anything for granted, to not wish time away. Not like, oh, get to the end of the season, so then I'm going overseas or whatever it is, on to the next thing. To really like stay in the moment. So I think that after that meeting, we all kind of went our separate ways overseas, and then we got Maya just through the draft, because that's just the way the balls bounced. It ended up working out well for us, and like Coach said, 2011 was just, it was like the easiest year ever. No one expected us to be good. So we were just beating everybody, just smack down. We went out to Seattle. And just crushed them. We were up. The fans, they stand too before they score. They had. It was like through the first media timeout, and they were still standing. It was like legit. legit 20. It was legit 22 to like 4 after the first quarter. We killed them, and so we were like, oh, we're gonna be, and they were the defending champs. So it was like we had to go and beat the defend. You know, it's like, all right, now, okay, maybe we might have something here. So, but yeah, then that year was that was fun. But the year I think I learned the most, and like I said earlier, that was the year that that coach challenged me to like be great in practice every day and to like think about those things every day in practice. And I think she challenged me and Simone at that point, and that was the year. I keep going back and forth, but this was 2010, so this is before we had Maya. And I think that year between that, her challenging me every day in practice, and then Jim P just talking about like time and not ever like wishing anything away, wishing any time away from your teammates, things like that, like getting to the end because this is kind of tough, never thinking like that because you're going to regret it one day. I learned a lot from those two moments in that season, and that was because we were going through a lot of adversity, and that kind of had to, that year, like coach will say it like every year now, like that year had to happen for us to be what we are now. Because like I said, that's how we were able to, win these last bunch of championships, because we have all those values instilled in us from those hard times, and it's a reason why we really celebrate all those things, and it's because we remember when we were the ones losing, and we remember those hardships and how bad that felt and what that felt like, and so we've kind of all carried that through with us from that point on until now.
Cool. And Coach Reeve, lessons learned from losing and disappointments that just stay with you that you can't get rid of. I mean, how does that feel?
Well, I have two perspectives that come to mind. The first one is I'm not good in the losing thing. I've made many mistakes after a loss with my words, with my actions. And so trying to learn through that, I'm still learning. And so what I've learned is I don't lose well. I never have. I never, even as a young person. I think they label it a poor sport.
Was that in your report card, or was
it was. So I'm very self-aware when it comes to that. So that's one perspective. So in the big picture, I never want to learn from losing. That's probably my thing, is I try to avoid that at all costs. I want to win a game and learn about what we got to do better. I don't like the idea of learning from losing. So we try to avoid that. Now, that being said, the other perspective is that when we get in a season, one of the things that is really, really important is the word perspective, having perspective on things. I think I've gained that. That's something that I've learned through the years, that you have to have perspective. Without perspective, you could really make huge mistakes in your decision making. And so there's not been a WNBA season. This is now, what am I going into? This is my 16th year that I'm going into the WNBA. There's not been a WNBA season that you haven't experienced at least a 3-game losing streak. Every team I was a part of, even the championship teams, a 3-game losing streak. And so how you handle those moments in your season really kind of determines how you come out of it. Whether it's beginning of the season, middle of the season, and this, just kind of trying to understand the dynamics of what's going on, how to stop the bleeding. That's something that we talk about a lot. We talk about it in practice. When somebody scores, a teammate score on us, 3 straight possessions, whatever it is, we want to figure out how to stop the bleeding. And I think, having perspective about what's going on, and so kind of like the self-diagnosis, recognizing there's a problem, understanding how do you fix it, what are the solutions, not wallow in it, not get too focused on what's already happened. I think players are terrific at this. I think our players are really, really good. I think Lindsay's terrific at this. It's always about the next play. Whatever just happened, you got to leave it, and you got to go on to the next play. And I think we've been really, really good through Lindsay's time here in Minnesota in that area because of Lindsay, the leadership that Lindsay provides in those moments. I know for me, the way that we have kind of, developed our team leadership-wise, we have 4 captains. I only have 11 players on our team, sometimes 12, and we have 4 captains. And people think that's kind of interesting because, of the ratio. But for us, it has been those 4 people that have navigated us through every moment, good and not so good, right? And we haven't experienced very many of the not so goods because those four have just been terrific at problem solving and giving us direction and taking the lead. Yeah, so I think Lindsay and I are going to try to continue to avoid learning through losing.
Sounds good. Okay, I want to ask one last question because I want to leave time. I know there are people here are very anxious to have an opportunity to ask Cheryl and Lindsay questions in our Q&A. So one more question. So Lindsay, can you tell us one thing about Cheryl that we don't know but would really love to know? And, some funny thing about her, some quirk or a bad habit. And it's okay, you can be honest because we promise we will never tell anyone. So what is it that we don't know about Cheryl that we would really love to know?
Just a reminder, April 24th is around the corner. Practice starts.
Yeah. Dang. I gotta think about this. Something that, I don't know. Can you come back to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So Cheryl, how about something about Lindsay that we don't really know but would love to know? And again, we promise not to tell.
That is tough. I think you guys probably know Lindsay so well, that you know her sense of humor. It's not something I knew about. I got to tell you, the dry sense of humor. This is something that hopefully Lindsay's okay with this part. No, in the locker room before our games. I think you guys have seen the video of our team as we kind of move through the halls. You've seen that, but you haven't seen in the locker room. It would surprise you, the antics that go on. I don't know all of them. I have heard different things. And Lindsay is kind of the leader of that, those fun moments, right? And I think Lindsay would tell you those are the most fun things about being a player. The game is fun, but it's all those things outside of it. And I think it would be shocking for you guys to watch Lindsay and hear Lindsay get her team excited for the night's play. And I don't have video or we will keep something sacred, but that's what I would say about Lindsay.
And you can pass if you want to keep stuff sacred too.
It's a rowdy group that we have. So, one thing that's probably the best part about our team is that, 14 minutes to go before the game, you would probably have no idea that our team has a game. I mean, it's like, but I don't know. That's just kind of what we do, and that's kind of what we've just come up with. I don't know. But, Simone is probably the ringleader of a lot of it, too. So, because Simone is, she's pretty fun. She's pretty crazy. So, she keeps it light and loose, and I feel like we all kind of, play off of each other pretty well, and in keeping it serious but yet loose. And I feel like that's a good chemistry to have. It's worked well for us for a bunch of years, but sometimes I have to laugh because then when it's time to get serious, I think that, wow, if people actually saw, we have game 5 here in 10 minutes, what's actually going on, and what's actually being talked about right now is probably, we're running out, and I don't know, sometimes it's just, even the on-court conversations are pretty good, but you got to keep it loose. Like I said, it's fun. It's a game. So I'm still trying to think of something about Coach, honestly. So I'm kind of distracted.
That's okay. You don't have to. That's okay.
One time she came into the locker room and the box score was kind of all torn up. So I think she was really happy that we just done really well at the end, and we probably made a shot. So she was a couple of times it's in half. The box score that the coaches get to okay, this is what we gotta do. This one. So I don't know.
That's okay.
We're all I wouldn't say superstitious, but we all, like, on the road, the coaches have their spot to go to eat, so they always go to this place called Show You at the airport, and then our crew kind of goes to Axel's bonfire at the airport, so, like, we know all the waiters, all the bartenders, all the greeters, it's pretty cool. So I guess maybe, like, superstitions that we all have, so, like, if something's not going well, I think you guys started down at Ike's. Then that wasn't going well. We were losing. It was 2010, and then
We were all over
you
the
guys
place in
switched.
2010.
Yeah.
We had
That was back when I was eating Burger King before the game,
Right.
so I was at Burger
Right.
King line. Just kidding. So then, maybe just our kind of like our superstitions and things like that, and we all have like a ton. At 60 minutes before the game when it's time for chapel?
Yeah.
You should come for that portion of the game. It's warm up, so we're kind of just, again, it's pretty loose at this point, but there's also some serious moments in there. But Coach will always, no matter who's around or what's happening, she's usually kind of like surrounded by media, but she'll scream, chapel time, to all of us, louder than that, to like all of us to let us know that if you want to go pray, that it's time to go pray, because there's kind of a routine of the game, and so she screams that out, and then that's when we know everybody who wants to go pray can go pray, and I say my prayers during the national anthem, so I sit there at that point, and I'm usually messing around with like Simone and Shelly, and anyway, then Coach kind of goes and does her thing, so I guess those are maybe the two. That's two things. That was pretty good off the top.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what it takes to build great leaders and great parents. Okay, I just need to make a couple of announcements before we open it up to questions from the floor. There will be, right after the Q&A is finished, when you leave the auditorium here, to the right are some refreshments. So please help yourselves to refreshments on the Tucker Center's dime. The other thing I want to say is, and I know that a lot of you are going to want to come down right after the Q&A and try to talk to Cheryl and Lindsay, but if you would not do that and just please exit the auditorium, because we have pictures that we need to take and post on various websites. But after we do that, it won't take long. They will both come out into the auditorium, and so you can surround them at that point. And then finally, for those of you who are live streaming and want to be part of the Q&A, please tweet your questions with the hashtag TCGC, as in Tucker Center Great Conversation. So once again, how about a round of applause for these fabulous women. We have folks in the aisles, so if you have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll try to get to you.
Is this on? Okay. I have a question for, what was your name? Cheryl, I think? Well, I have two questions. How many times have you thrown your jacket? Like in your whole career, did that start when you were an assistant coach or when?
No, that was just one time.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just one time.
Well, that was memorable. And then game 3 in Indiana, that clip of you when you're like running, where were you going to? And then you turned around. I've wondered that since I saw it. I was like, where is she going?
Well, I was running to go shake their hand because I
That's
didn't
what
want anybody to change what just happened. I wanted no reviews. I just wanted to go shake Steph's hand and get out
Okay.
there. And then I realized there was going to be a review. So I
Okay,
went back.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything to ask Lindsay, so sorry.
We need to have you ask on the microphone because we videotape it. So if you guys, I know. Oh, okay, over here.
Do you know any Muslim or Somali women on the team, like in WNBA?
Somalia?
Somali women.
slash Muslim? Any of them?
I don't know the answer to that. Lindsay, do you? I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
Okay, cool.
Maddie, there's some folks in the middle up here.
Yes. Should we require them to stand if they're going to ask the question?
Yeah, maybe if you could stand too, that would help too. It's kind of hard to see up here.
I just wanted to bring up the fact that, yes, the University of Minnesota hockey team did win the national championship. It wasn't on TV.
Yeah.
And so what can we do to get a better coverage of all the women's sports? Even this NCAA is not being televised, unlike the men, every game. How can we make that change?
Well, this is, I know that this is
Go for
in
it.
Mary Jo's wheelhouse. This is what she does for a living. But I think for me, as I've gone through this the last 20 years, and I've seen women in sport grow and gain more respect, but obviously we're very far from where we want to be, which kind of speaks to your point. I've heard a lot of different things. Recently I read an article that it was the lack of support by women, was the crux of the problem. Now, that was perplexing for me to hear because I don't believe that's the crux of the problem. But I do think it's a factor. And so when you say, what can we do? The thing that we hear most often is when I go to speak and people come to me, often women that will say, your team's amazing, role models, we love this, what can we do? And then I will ask them, well, where do you sit at the games? I'd love to come over and say hello. And the answer oftentimes is, well, I don't have season tickets. My husband has tickets to the Twins and the Wolves, but we don't have tickets. And so it's baffling to me to hear that. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect for whatever reason about what it takes to support women, women in sport. Now, we haven't been doing it as long as men. Maybe that's part of the process, the learning curve. And so getting involved. And so if you don't think it's important to buy a ticket to go to the game, you're probably not going to understand why it's not on TV, right? So we hear many things, and most of them are incorrect when it comes to about women in sport. We don't, now Title IX does protect the women in college, sort of. I think it was a law, right? But the law's broken repeatedly. But I will say that male advocates, whether it was Title IX, having male advocates at that time to put the bill forward, having male advocates, when the Tucker Center was founded, those I don't know if I can place, I don't know that I always knew that. I always looked at men as kind of, and I'm saying in more of a negative way, kind of holding us back and being angry about what men had. I'm no longer angry about it. What I want, and we need to do every day, the men that are here, we appreciate you being here. I hope that we understand the power of our words, both women and men, and the things that we say to other women, the things that we do. Men, we need you. We need you to advance this thing, because guess what? Men are the decision makers in most arenas. So we need to go to men and say, this is important to me, that you support me, and ask them, will you do more for us? What can we do? And so there are those men out there. They are out there. You got to seek them out. You find them. Ask them for the help. The tennis world. What just happened in the tennis world? Unfortunately, right, education does not run very deep with this. And so we have to have the mindset that we have to educate one at a time. We can't be angry. We have to figure out how to fight the fight. And we have to do it one at a time. But let's just make sure that if we're asking the question, why is it not on TV, that we're going, I'm doing everything I can. I'm buying tickets to support. At my own company where I am, I'm spreading the word. I'm grabbing a friend and bringing them to the games. You mustn't take that for granted. What your role is Are you doing all that you can? Are you speaking the right words? And so I think if we just kind of continue down that path, the fight is worth fighting. I do know that. So that we're not talking about why are we not on television. It is disgraceful that championship game. I think if you want to see it, it is tape delayed, 7 days from the time that it happened. Okay, but there will be a day, but we can't sit back. We can't stay on the sidelines. And we've got to put ourselves forward. But please make sure that you're doing what you can do to support.
It's not a lack of interest. It's a contractual issue with the NCAA. As Joel knows, we tried to talk to them last year and didn't get very far. And I'm sure that Beth knows that as well. I think the thing to do is put as much public pressure and, frankly, public shaming on the NCAA to figure out a way to get out of a contract that will let us see the Final Four. So it's not about education or lack thereof or lack of interest. It's about a contractual obligation that they absolutely refuse to move off of. And so, it's like everything else, public pressure, public shaming.
Well, I have a couple of things. One, I sit in section 110, row P, seat 10. I mean, it's not that close to where you are, but feel free to come on up. Or Michaela, if you could upgrade me to those black seats so it's closer for her to get to me, that'd be great. The question that's always haunted me is one of your captains, Rebecca Brunson, is so underrated and underappreciated. I think she probably had one of her best seasons this past year. And so why is a player that's just so dynamic like that not even recognized to be on the Olympic team or any of that? I meant, what happens to someone with such a tenacity as a power forward that she's not recognized?
Well, first, thank you for your support, being a Lynx season ticket holder. I share your enthusiasm for Rebecca Brunson, as I know Lindsay does. There's not, I don't know that there's many in the league that only know one way of doing things. When Rebecca is in, she is in. And that's what you experience when you come to the games. Doesn't matter what the score is, doesn't matter what the situation is. That's how that's how Rebecca is in practice. No matter what we're doing, she knows one way, which is what makes her so hard to play against. I suspect that what holds Rebecca back from being thought of in the same light as some of these the marquee players is, I think what she does isn't necessarily as, the word sexy isn't as sexy as scoring 25 points. It's the dirty work. Frankly, it's the stuff that wins games. And so, I think Rebecca handles that tremendously well. She knows how much we value her. And so we don't let very many days go by, that we certainly don't slight her on the inside. But I suspect that's probably the biggest issue. And I think her size a little bit when you talk about the Olympic team. I've tried to, in 2012, I made myself to Gino. That I thought you had plenty of people that were willing to shoot the ball. And that if any of them happened to miss, that Rebecca would be the one that would get the rebound. And I thought she would fit in great. And, obviously he had different ideas. But it's unfortunate. But I think Rebecca knows, especially in this market, too. I think she understands how much we all appreciate her. And so if we can continue to show that appreciation, I think she'll continue to perform in that way. And I agree. Rebecca in the playoffs, in particular, the first and second rounds. We're not in the finals without Rebecca Brunson and her play in playing against a terrific LA team in the first round of the playoffs. I think we'll tell you, when we beat LA, we knew we were going to have a shot at the championship, even though we had another series to go against Phoenix. But that was a hard series. They were playing great. And just a 3-game series, that's a little bit harder to navigate through. And Rebecca was just outstanding in her preparation the week leading into those games, and then obviously you guys saw it in the games. So I'll let Rebecca know that she's appreciated.
We have a question on Twitter from MiniMe21. She tweeted, "Can Lindsay share what she and Rebecca Brunson chat about after the center court captain's meeting with the refs just before tip-off?"
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, that's, I'm trying to think. Yeah, we usually, me and Brunson go and represent for the captains because Maya and Mona are just, goofing around and, kind of just like, taking, shots and things. So we go there, we have our serious meeting. And then we always talk about, we kind of evaluate each ref the lead ref on how they kind of started the meeting and just how they handled themselves. I realize I'm talking to Twitter now, not you. We always are like, oh, that was pretty good, or kind of all scattered. But we kind of talk about how that went and how that ref kind of led the discussion. And then we usually talk about kind of, then we get serious for a little bit, and we kind of talk about usually like that game, maybe like our matchups, what we have to do, how things have been going. And then we always kind of say like, we always say it starts with us. So it starts with, us being leaders, starters. It starts with, us starting the game and leading the team. And we always just kind of say that. And it's kind of quick, but at that point we're trying to get our last, little bit of rest in too. So we're kind of just stalling before we have to go back and, get in a drill. So, vet move. So that's what that's what you learn after a lot of years. So, that's one of our cool moments that we have together for sure. We have a lot, me and Brunson. So I definitely agree with what you and Coach said about Brunson. We came in, we're the same year, we're the same class, so we're still hanging on from the 04 class, and we think we're doing, pretty good. And we just, I don't know, I played against her for a lot of years, and we came here the same year. Me through a trade, her through when Sacramento, they folded, and then, we got lucky enough to get Brunson that year too. So I don't know, we just kind of came in here at the same time, so we've had a special bond for sure. And you talk about, being a great person. She's just like an unbelievable person, and she works hard, and she's got that look during the game, but she's just, she's awesome. She's definitely, someone that we all lean on a lot because she makes a lot of plays and does a lot of things that sometimes go unnoticed, but like we notice them and we see them every day. So it's really fun being her teammate.
My favorite story with Brunson, if I could, in 2010, kind of the challenging year for all of us. As Lindsay said, it was her first year coming back to Minnesota, Rebecca's first year coming in from Sacramento, and we're going through the season, and it was 6:30 in the morning. We were doing an early flight, and we were struggling. And I was kind of doing my thing, driving. I lean on these guys a lot. I meet with them and ask them questions and kind of share with them how I'm feeling, and we try to problem solve a little bit. And I'll never forget this. And sometimes it's just not necessarily perspective, but also facing your reality. And I wasn't necessarily in that moment of reality because I thought we should win every game. Even in 2010, and it was 6:30 in the morning, and we were talking, kind of going through stuff, and Rebecca, what do you think? And she said, Coach, I just don't think we're good enough. And wow. And that's the thing. Rebecca is incredibly cerebral in her thought process, and that was the moment that I really realized I needed to hear more from her. And I was speechless, and I thought, and I really reflected on that, and I thought, she's right. They're doing the best that they can, and sometimes you're just not good enough. And that was our, in 2010, that was our plight. That was kind of what we were dealing with. And so I still talk about that. Rebecca said, Coach, I just don't think we're good enough. So.
And you know what, Coach?
And she was right.
I was going to say, and Lindsay just looked at me and said, she was right.
Yeah, and she was right.
But
we got
that
Maya.
that was the foundation, as you
Yeah.
said, that
Yeah.
propelled you to three
Yep.
WNBA titles. We've got time for just a couple more questions. I don't know where folks are with the microphones.
Coach Reeve, a thank you and a question. I've got a couple young girls, and your players have been an inspiration on the court and very approachable off the court, and thanks a lot. A question, hypothetically, 5 years from now, the U's got a vacancy in coaching. Lindsay's retired. Beth's got the full-time job. What would you say to Beth about Lindsay, of what type of coach she could be and why?
I think that I'm trying to figure this out. So we're in 2016, 5 years. I think her contract doesn't end until, I think it was like an 8-year contract we signed. So I would be open to a dual thing, you know, coaching in the off season and playing for us. Lindsay's the type that can play for a long, long time. When you have the mental capacity. Lindsay would be, when I think about through the years who I've recommended for positions, I don't know that I could recommend somebody higher for coaching a team, but representing a university. Not because she was a great player at the U, but the way that she did it. Much like I hope that what your young girls experience when they come to the games, what you said is one of the highest compliments that you could pay us. Not, Lindsay, that was a great move, but Lindsay, you're so approachable outside of the game, right? We pride ourselves on that. Lindsay has a tremendous mind for the game. Tremendous mind. I get a lot from Lindsay, a lot of give and take. I love when Lindsay will come in and she'll say, Coach, you watched the game last night. How about when they ran this, and this? What do you think about that for us? And so I really value Lindsay's mind for the game. Lindsay has a thirst for, I think, getting the best out of people, out of players. And so she doesn't think about herself. She'll think about in the moments in the game, she'll come over and she'll say, Coach, I need to get Simone off. I'm going to run 2 in, or I'm going to do this. Maya hasn't had a shot in a while. And that's kind of, a leader is able to do those things when you think about others first. And so I think for those reasons, Lindsay would be an amazing, amazing coach, representative. I could not imagine being a young person from the age of 18 to 22 and having someone like Lindsay to learn from. And so I know that Lindsay will do that once she fulfills her contract with the Lynx.
You want to respond to that? Let it go.
Oh, me? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like at this point, it's all about just this season, and we'll see what happens with the Olympics. We're still working through, finding out if who's all going to be on that team. We had a really fun training camp a couple weeks ago. I've definitely been itching to play kind of ever since that, so I'm ready for camp. Most of it, just not the, I don't know, full court drills are good, but there comes those first few are kind of tough, but no, I'm just enjoying playing so much. So thank you for the compliment. But we're just as for me, I'm just enjoying playing too much and loving the situation that we're in with the Lynx. So yeah, we'll see what happens. You never know in the future what's going to happen. So we'll just wait and see.
Let me just say that on a personal note, we've been doing these kinds of events at the Tucker Center since 1993. And there have been a lot of really, really magical championship moments, but none greater than tonight. So one more round of applause for these players. So what, Susan here? Was there one? I'm sorry, one more question. Sorry about that.
What made your team so determined to win the WNBA title?
Could you stand up and repeat that?
What made your team so determined to win the WNBA title?
This season?
Yeah, the season.
That's a great story. Go ahead, Lindsay. She said, what made us so determined to win the WNBA title this season? Especially if we've already won a couple.
I think, now I think knowing what it feels like when you get to accomplish that as a group and together as a team. Like I said, in 2011, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just having fun, beating people. But then, like, the next year we started out like 10-0, and like everybody hated us, So it was just like everybody's been coming for us ever since then. So having that, like, every night, every team, no matter home or away, like, we get everybody's best shot. We know that. And so that's so much harder when you're the team that's been on top. We've won a bunch now, 3 and 5 years. So our game gets circled on everybody's schedule. We play, against amazing players. There's really not, like, if you statistically look at it, there's not that much, difference. It's usually like a point or two here or there from like 1 through 12. So like those things, the talent is like really even on all the teams. So it's usually just like a couple of things that separate the teams. So it's usually a possession here or there, and so I think just having that, knowing that excitement that you've had from years past and how how fun that is, really drove us a lot last year, and will continue to drive us as long as we're all still doing this.
I think it's greed. Great players like Lindsay, what's great about them is you win 2011. They put that aside and go, okay, what's the next one? Like, well, I want the next one. And so they keep wanting more. And they never, because it can happen. You can get softened by winning. You can kind of go, well, we've done it. And I've seen players like that. To have someone like Lindsay to go, okay, what's the next thing? I want to go get a gold medal. I want to go get another championship. And staying in the moment while doing it. She's not thinking about what happened. I mean, we're reminiscing now a little bit, but oftentimes when Lindsay answers, you hear what she said, I'm staying in the moment. I'm staying right here, right now. And the competitive drive that champions have is unmatched. What an Olympian has. It's just a little bit something, not a little bit, it's a lot special, but it's a very small thing that's inside of a champion that drives them to continue to want more. And that will always be the case for Lindsay, no matter what she's doing. And so I suspect that same determination she had to win in 2015 will be there again in 2016. Well, I guess we'll see how the ending goes.
Exactly. And thank you. That was a great question. Okay, so go have refreshments. Give us a few minutes, and Lindsay and Cheryl will come out. You were great.
Thank you.
You were fabulous.